Take a look at a globe and tell me what you see. You see the massive landmasses we've all been taught since kindergarten. North America, Africa, Eurasia, Antarctica. It feels like the map of our world is finished, doesn't it? Like we've explored every corner and charted every coastline. But what if I told you that for hundreds of years, we've been living right next to a giant that was hiding in plain sight? Scientists have officially confirmed the existence of a hidden eighth continent, a massive stretch of land twice the size of India that has been submerged beneath the Southwest Pacific Ocean for millions of years. This isn't just a big underwater plateau or a volcanic ridge. It's a genuine geological continent with its own mountains, its own plains, and its own unique history that once saw it teeming with dinosaurs and lush forests above the waves. It's called Zealandia, and its discovery is fundamentally changing how we understand the very structure of our planet. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do you lose a continent? Especially one that's nearly 2 million square miles in size. It's not like it's a set of car keys tucked behind the sofa. The reason Zealandia stayed a secret for so long is that 94% of it is underwater. If you look at a traditional map, you just see the islands of New Zealand and New Caledonia poking out of the blue. We used to think these were just isolated islands in the middle of a vast, deep ocean basin. But as technology improved and geologists began to look closer at the crust beneath those islands, they realized they weren't looking at the thin, heavy rock that makes up the ocean floor. They were looking at the thick, light, complex rock that only forms on continents. Zealandia was there all along. It was just keeping a very low profile. The story of this discovery is a masterclass in scientific persistence. It actually started back in 1995 when a geophysicist named Bruce Lewandowski first coined the name Zealandia. At the time, it was more of a hypothesis than a proven fact. He noticed that the region around New Zealand had all the hallmarks of a continent, but because so much of it was obscured by miles of seawater, the scientific community was skeptical. To be classified as a continent, a piece of land has to meet 4 specific criteria. First, it has to be elevated relative to the surrounding ocean floor. Second, it has personal distinct geology, with a wide variety of igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks. Third, it has to have a thicker crust than the surrounding ocean floor. And fourth, it has to have well-defined limits around a large enough area. For 20 years, teams of researchers from across the globe collected data to tick these boxes. They used satellite gravity maps to see through the water, revealing the hidden topography of the seabed. They sent down deep-sea drills to pull up rock samples from thousands of feet below the mud. What they found was a geological goldmine. They found granite, which is a classic continental rock. They found fossils of land plants and spores from ancient forests. They even found evidence of shallow water creatures in areas that are now thousands of feet deep. By 2017, the evidence was overwhelming. A paper published by the Geological Society of America officially declared Zealandia as Earth's 8th continent. We weren't just looking at a few islands. We were looking at the tips of a vast, drowned empire. But why did it sink? To answer that, we have to travel back about 85 million years. At that time, Zealandia was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, nestled right up against Australia and Antarctica. It was a thriving, high-altitude landscape covered in ferns and trees. But then, the tectonic plates began to move. Zealandia started to pull away from Gondwana, and as the crust stretched and thinned, it began to subside. Think of it like a piece of pizza dough. When you pull it at the edges, the middle gets thinner and lower. Over millions of years, the stretching became so extreme that Zealandia dropped below sea level. It was a slow-motion vanishing act that took eons to complete. By the time the dinosaurs were gone, Zealandia was mostly underwater, leaving only the highest mountain peaks as the islands we know today. This discovery is more than just a fun trivia fact for geography buffs. It has massive implications for how we understand the history of life on Earth. If Zealandia was once a vast land bridge between Antarctica and Australia, it means that plants and animals could have migrated across it easily. This explains why we find similar species of flightless birds, like the kiwi in New Zealand and the emus in Australia, even though they are separated by thousands of miles of ocean today. It changes our models of how biodiversity spread across the southern hemisphere. Zealandia wasn't just a piece of rock. It was a biological highway. Mapping Zealandia has been like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle where most of the pieces are at the bottom of a dark swimming pool. One of the most recent breakthroughs came from an international team that spent weeks at sea using high-resolution sonar to map the northern edges of the continent. They discovered massive volcanic provinces and huge underwater canyons that rival the Grand Canyon in scale. They also found evidence of a second birth for Zealandia. About 35 to 50 million years ago, the continent went through a period of intense tectonic activity known as the subduction resurrection. This was when the Pacific Plate started diving under the Australian Plate, causing parts of Zealandia to be buckled and pushed back up. This is actually what created the Southern Alps of New Zealand. So Zealandia didn't just sink once. It's been pushed, pulled, and squeezed by the Earth's engine for its entire existence. One of the coolest things about Zealandia is that it represents a controlled experiment for geologists. Because it's mostly submerged, its rocks haven't been eroded by wind and rain in the same way that rocks on the surface have. It's like a time capsule of the late Cretaceous period. By studying the sediment layers on the seabed, scientists can reconstruct the ancient climate of the southern hemisphere with incredible precision. They can see how the ocean currents changed as the continent moved, and how that influenced the global climate. In a way, Zealandia is a giant flight recorder for the Earth's history, and we've only just started downloading the data. Many people ask if there's any chance Zealandia could ever rise again. While the Earth is always changing, the short answer is no, at least not on a human timescale. The crust is too thin for it to float back up to the height of Australia. However, the discovery does raise interesting questions about the legal and economic rights to the region. Under international law, a country can claim rights to the resources on its continental shelf. Since New Zealand and New Caledonia are the visible parts of Zealandia, the discovery of a much larger continental structure has massive implications for who owns the minerals, oils, and unique biological resources on the ocean floor. It's a rare case where a geological discovery creates a brand new map for international politics. But let's get back to the wonder of it. Imagine for a second if the sea level dropped by just a few thousand feet. A whole new world would appear. You would see vast plains stretching out from Auckland and Christchurch, connecting them to New Caledonia in the north. You would see massive, ancient mountain ranges that currently sit in total darkness, home to deep-sea creatures we haven't even named yet. It's a reminder that our perception of the Earth is incredibly limited. We only see the parts that aren't covered in water, which is less than a third of the planet. There is so much more to our home than we realize. The discovery of Zealandia also forces us to rethink the definition of a continent. For a long time, we thought of continents as big, dry land masses. But Zealandia proves that a continent is a geological identity, not just a geographical one. It doesn't matter if it's wet or dry. What matters is the unique, thick crust and the history written in the rocks. This opens the door for looking for other hidden continents elsewhere. Could there be a sunken continent in the Indian Ocean, or off the coast of South America? Geologists are already looking at regions like the Kerguelen Plateau to see if they meet the criteria. We might eventually find that the Earth has 10 or 12 continents, most of them hiding beneath the waves. The exploration of Zealandia is also a huge technological feat. To get samples from the continent, researchers use a ship called the JOIDES Resolution. This is essentially a floating laboratory with a massive drill rig in the center. It can drop a drill string through miles of water and then another 1,000 feet into the crust. When they pull up those core samples, it's like reading the rings of a tree. They can see the change from terrestrial forest soil to shallow sea sand, and eventually to deep-sea mud. Each millimeter of that core represents thousands of years of the continent's journey. It's a slow, expensive, and difficult process, but it's the only way to confirm what's really down there. One of the most exciting finds from these drills was the presence of microscopic fossils that thrive in warm, shallow water. Finding these in the middle of the deep Pacific proved that Zealandia was once at the surface. It was a sun-drenched land, with a climate much warmer than today. This tells us that the Earth's climate was once very different, and it gives us clues about how the planet responds to high levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which were common during the age of the dinosaurs. Zealandia is helping us understand our future by showing us our most ancient past. As we continue to map Zealandia, we are also learning about the hazards of the region. The continent is located precisely where the Australian and Pacific plates are grinding against each other. This makes it one of the most seismically active places on Earth. Understanding the structure of the hidden continent helps scientists predict where earthquakes might happen and how tsunamis might travel across the ocean. It's not just academic research. It's vital information for the safety of everyone living in the Pacific region. It's truly fascinating to think about how close we were to missing this. If it weren't for the rise of satellite altimetry and deep-sea drilling, Zealandia might have remained an underwater mystery forever. It shows that even in the 21st century, there are still massive, world-changing discoveries to be made right here on Earth. We don't have to look at distant galaxies to find new worlds. Sometimes we just have to look straight down. The discovery phase of Zealandia is mostly over, and we are now in the exploration phase. Every year, new expeditions set out to answer specific questions. What kind of animals lived there? Exactly when did the sinking start? How did the breakup of Gondwana affect the life that stayed behind? These are the puzzles that the next generation of geologists will be solving. And for students who are interested in science, it's proof that the age of discovery is far from over. There are still continents to map and hidden worlds to explore. I find it particularly interesting how Zealandia's story is a story of resilience. Even though it was stretched to the breaking point and swallowed by the ocean, it didn't disappear. It stayed there, a silent witness to the passage of time. And now, millions of years later, it's finally getting its place in the sun. Metaphorically speaking, it's a geological comeback story that reminds us of the incredible, dynamic nature of our planet. The Earth is not a static rock, it's a living, moving system that is always reinventing itself. The mapping of Zealandia also highlights the importance of international cooperation. Scientists from New Zealand, Australia, New Caledonia, the US, and Europe all worked together to gather the data needed to confirm the continent's existence. It didn't matter which country found it. What mattered was the shared goal of understanding the planet. This kind of collaboration is one of the best things about the scientific community. It allows us to tackle problems that are bigger than any one nation. When you think about Zealandia, think about it as a reminder that we should never stop asking questions. For centuries, people looked at those islands and just assumed they knew the whole story. It took someone willing to look closer, to challenge the status quo, to find a whole continent. This hidden continent is a testament to the power of curiosity. It's an invitation to look at the world with fresh eyes and to realize that there is always more to the story than what we see on the surface. And while we're talking about what's beneath the surface, let's consider the hydrothermal vents found along Zealandia's ridges. These are underwater volcanoes that spew hot, mineral-rich water into the ocean. These vents are home to some of the strangest life forms on Earth. Creatures that don't need sunlight to survive, but instead eat chemicals like sulfur. By studying these vents on Zealandia, we are learning about how life might survive on other worlds, like the icy moons of Jupiter or Saturn. Zealandia isn't just a lost world. It's a window into the possibilities of life throughout the universe. The story of Zealandia also gives us a new perspective on the concept of home. For the people living in New Zealand and New Caledonia, they aren't just living on islands. They are living on the mountain peaks of a giant, ancient landmass. It changes how you feel about the ground under your feet. It gives you a connection to a vast, invisible landscape that stretches out into the deep blue. It's like finding out your small cottage is actually the top floor of a massive skyscraper. As the years go by, Zealandia will become more and more a part of our common knowledge. Eventually, it will be in all the textbooks, and children will learn about the 8 continents instead of 7. It will be a standard part of our map of the world. But for those of us who lived through the discovery, it will always be a reminder of that incredible moment when we realized the world was much bigger than we thought. It's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that we are lucky enough to witness. What's next? Well, the high-resolution mapping continues. We are starting to see the details of the seafloor with the same clarity that we see the surface of Mars. We are finding ancient riverbeds, dormant volcanoes, and perhaps even evidence of human migration paths, from a time when sea levels were even lower than they are today. Every new piece of data adds to the richness of the story. Zealandia is a gift that keeps on giving to the scientific community. Its presence is felt every day. It influences our climate. It dictates the movement of the tides in the Pacific, and it provides a home for an incredible array of marine life. It is an integral part of the Earth's machinery. The hidden continent is no longer a secret, but a celebrated part of our planet's identity. It's a hero that was lost and has finally been found. So, the next time you look at a map, remember Zealandia. Remember that there is a giant continent twice the size of India sitting quietly beneath the waves of the Southwest Pacific. Remember that the map is never really finished, and that there are still mysteries waiting to be solved. Whether it's in the depths of the ocean or the far reaches of space, the spirit of discovery is what keeps us moving forward. Zealandia is a magnificent reminder of that truth. The geological makeup of Zealandia is also a point of fascination. Unlike the oceanic crust, which is mostly made of basalt, Zealandia is made of diverse rocks like schist and granite. These rocks are much less dense, which is why they float higher on the Earth's mantle, even if they are currently submerged. This buoyancy is a key piece of the continental puzzle. Without this lightness, Zealandia would have sunk even deeper, perhaps even merging with the oceanic crust. Its persistence as a distinct unit is a testament to its strong, old heart of rock. There's also the question of Zealandia's gold. Submerged continents are often rich in mineral deposits, and Zealandia is no exception. There are potentially vast stores of iron, manganese, and maybe even rare earth elements that are essential for modern technology like smartphones and electric car batteries. However, extracting these materials from miles deep on the ocean floor is a massive environmental and technical challenge. The discovery of the continent has started a global conversation about how we balance our need for resources with the need to protect these pristine, untouched underwater landscapes. Zealandia isn't just a scientific marvel, it's a case study for future sustainability. Interestingly, Zealandia's isolation has led to some of the most unique evolutionary paths on the planet. Because it split off from Gondwana so long ago, the life on its visible islands had millions of years to evolve in its own direction. This is why New Zealand has such strange creatures like the tuatara, a lizard-like animal that is the last survivor of an order that dates back to the dinosaurs. The Zealandia effect shows us how geography dictates the history of life. If Zealandia had stayed connected to Australia, these unique species might have been outcompeted and disappeared long ago. The sinking of the continent, ironically, helped preserve the uniqueness of the life on its peaks. As we improve our sonar technology, we are also starting to see fossilized coastlines. These are the ancient beaches that existed before the major sinking events. They appear as sudden ledges or terraces on the underwater slopes. By dating the shells and sediment found on these terraces, scientists can tell us exactly when the ocean rose at different points in history. This is invaluable data for climate modelers who are trying to understand the relationship between global temperature and sea level. Zealandia is essentially a prehistoric tide gauge that has been recording the ocean's height for 80 million years. For geologists, Zealandia is the least fractured example of a continent that has undergone extreme stretching. On other continents, this stretching usually leads to the land breaking apart completely, like the Red Sea separating Africa and Arabia. But Zealandia stayed together as one big piece, even as it thinned out. This makes it a perfect laboratory for studying continental rifting. By looking at how Zealandia stretched without snapping, scientists can build better models of how the Earth's crust behaves under pressure. It's like having a giant piece of geological taffy to study. The discovery also highlights how narrow our definition of land has been. We tend to focus on the part we can stand on, but the continental crust doesn't care about water levels. To a geologist, a continent is a structural unit of the Earth's lithosphere. Zealandia is just as much a continent as Africa is. It just happens to have a bit of a flooding problem. This shift in thinking from geographical to geological is the real breakthrough. It allows us to see the planet as a whole, rather than just a collection of dry spots. Looking forward, the next big step is to create a full 3D model of Zealandia's interior using seismic waves. This would allow us to see the structure of the continent all the way down to the mantle. We could see the old roots of the mountains that once stood there and the deep faults that were created when the continent pulled away from Gondwana. It would be like getting a medical scan for the entire landmass. This will tell us more about the plumbing of our planet and how heat moves from the core to the surface. I also can't help but wonder about the future of exploration. If we can find a continent under the ocean in 2017, what will we find in 2117? Perhaps we will develop technologies to explore the deep crust with the same ease that we explore the surface today. Maybe we will find vast, underground river systems or even larger chambers of rock that we haven't even imagined. The discovery of Zealandia shows us that the known world is still relatively small, and the unknown world is waiting right underneath us. The discovery of Zealandia is a story of adventure, technology, and a deep, abiding love for our planet. It's a story that reminds us that there is always more to learn, and that our world is full of hidden treasures. It's an invitation to everyone to stay curious and to keep looking for the continents in their own lives. The big, important truths that might be hiding right in front of them. Zealandia is no longer a hidden continent. It's a symbol of human discovery and the incredible mysteries of the Earth. So, as we close this chapter on the lost continent, remember that the map is always evolving. New islands are born from volcanoes. Continents move at the speed your fingernails grow, and sometimes a whole new world is revealed beneath the waves. Zealandia is now officially part of our global family, and we are all the richer for knowing it. It's a magnificent land of underwater peaks and ancient secrets, a giant that has finally woken up from its millions of years of hidden slumber. Keep looking at the blue parts of the map. You never know what else might be down there. The sheer volume of water sitting on top of Zealandia is also mind-blowing. In some places, the continent is over 2 miles deep. The pressure at that depth is enough to crush a submarine like a soda can, and yet there is life there. We've found deep-sea corals that live for thousands of years, and fish that look like something out of a dream. Zealandia is a massive habitat, a secret garden that has been allowed to grow undisturbed for millions of years. It's one of the last truly wild places on Earth. What's truly striking is how Zealandia's discovery has fostered a sense of identity for the people of the South Pacific. For New Zealanders, it's a point of pride to know that they aren't just a small nation at the edge of the world, but the central peak of a vast and powerful continent. It's a literal groundedness that comes with knowing the geological truth of your home. It's an empowering discovery that has resonated throughout the culture. As the scientific community continues to publish papers on Zealandia, the picture of our planet becomes more and more beautiful. We are moving away from a simple view and toward a complex, layered understanding of the Earth. We are seeing the bonds between the continents, the cycles of the oceans, and the dance of the tectonic plates. Zealandia is a crucial part of that dance. It's a piece of the puzzle that was missing for a long time, and now that it's back, the whole picture looks different. In conclusion, the discovery of the 8th continent, Zealandia, is one of the most significant geological events of our lifetime. It's a testament to the power of science to reveal the invisible and to the Earth's ability to keep its secrets. Zealandia is a land of wonder, a sunken empire of rock and history that has finally been acknowledged by the world. It's a reminder that we live on a planet of mysteries, and that the greatest discoveries are often the ones that have been right under our feet, or our waves, the whole time. So, keep your eyes on the horizon and your mind open to the unknown. The Earth is still full of surprises, and Zealandia is just the beginning of what we might find next. Stay curious, because the world is much bigger, much deeper, and much more fascinating than any map can ever show.